This conference will now be recorded.
Oh, and Joe Blanchett, we haven't seen him for a while. So I think, well, because we got a bunch of people, I think we should get underway, and somehow or other we will pick up the stragglers along the way. So good evening, everybody. Most of you know who I am. Maybe there's one or two who don't. This is Rick Davis. In deep southern Arizona, Tubac. And welcome to you from the East Coast to the middle of the Pacific, where we have at least two people right now, I think. Not in a boat on the island of Maui. So, oh, and we have, I see a video from Mr. Kafka. Are we using a walker or are we using a stick?
Look at this.
Man, oh man. That's amazing.
No, nothing?
Not even 2 weeks yet.
Oh man.
Peter,
Fantastic, Peter.
You're the new Iron Man.
Yeah, my physical therapist just left. Anyway, yeah, if there's time tonight, I want to just do a quick testimonial about exercise.
Okay, yeah, there will be time. And for those of you who may not be aware, Peter fractured the ball of his femur about 2 weeks ago.
Week and a half ago.
Week and a half ago, and they had to put pins in the ball. And here he is, ready to do the can-can. So that is really spectacular. God bless you.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to do a quick roll call. Here's who I see on the call. Jake, myself, Ken Anderson, Jim Ward, Dick Bailey, Les Shelderup, Dan Louie, John Appler, Peter Kafka, Len Sierra, Rich Jackson, Jack, who I assume that's Jackie Moon. Is that right?
Correct. Yes, it is.
Thank you. Okay. Dennis Correa, Paul Frieda, Sylvester Mann, Carl Foreman, Larry Fish, and Joel Blanchett. Anybody I missed? Okay. Now, I think, Jackie, you haven't been on the call. I know we've corresponded, but I don't think you've been on the call before. Is that right?
That's correct. This is my first time.
Okay, well, welcome.
Thank you.
And what we usually do with first-time callers, if you're game, is we ask you to tell us a little bit about your situation, what your disease history is, how old you are, where you're being treated, and what issues you're facing, excuse me, right now. And then we'll open it up to the group and see how we can help you. Is that okay by you?
Sounds great.
Okay. So why don't we let you go, and we'll give you the floor.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Jackie Moon. I was diagnosed with 4-stage prostate cancer last year. I'm a union electrician. I was working at the refinery, and all of a sudden I had bladder retention. And 3 months later, we had a kind of a Dr. Doom nurse that just basically told me that I had 4-stage cancer, like she was telling me that my ham sandwich was ready. And that was a little trying because, I mean, the people I see are kind of my age, around thereabouts. And that meant something different to us, growing up in the 70s, that meant we're done pretty much. And anyway, so now coming up on a year here, and I'm treated in the central coast of California, named Templeton. We found a urologist that thought that their treatment of me was a little bit too severe, and he just wanted to drop me down to the Lupron shot because they had me on Lupron and Zytiga. I was getting pretty sick there. Like every 3 hours, it would just come out of the blue, and I'd just be wiped out, nausea, up to like a 6 or 7. And we're waiting to see how that works now. And what else did you ask there, Rick?
How old are you?
I am 53. I'm going to be 54 this month.
Okay.
And so,
we've got a couple of other guys around your age who you'll get to talk to who had similar diagnoses. One recently and one quite some time ago. So 2 or 3 years back, I think, Ken. Ken, when were you diagnosed?
February of 2017.
February of 2017, so 2 years ago.
yeah.
So we'll certainly let you guys talk. I'm not exactly. You live in Templeton, is that what you said?
Well, we live in the Central Coast, and there's a few towns on the Central Coast, and one of those being Templeton. That's where I'm being treated. We actually live in a town called Creston. The worst thing about mine, I guess, is what they say is that it's in my lungs.
Right.
We didn't know for a while if that was because of the construction work or if that had to do with the cancer itself. And it's been a rough thing to come to grips with it. And I don't mean any bad anything, but at my age, I don't think none of us expects it. At 53,
Right.
it was rough going into the doctor's office, though, when everybody seemed to be about 20 years older than me,
Right. No, we do know, and you're gonna have some empathy from a couple of guys on this call. Where exactly is Crest? I mean, are you north or south of San Luis Obispo?
Oh, so we are, that is like 20 miles away from me, San Luis Obispo. Oh,
Okay,
north,
so
and we're north,
you're north of San Luis Obispo.
yes.
Oh, that's where there's a fantastic what's the name of that town just north of San Luis Obispo on the coast where there's a great fish taco place.
Oh, well, there's Morro Bay, if that's the one.
No, it's north of Morro Bay. It doesn't matter. I don't want to bore everybody on this call, but I was there not so long ago. But okay, now I have a good idea. And you're being treated by a urologist in Templeton, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, and your treatment right now is Lupron and Zytiga?
Well, it's Lupron now. He's trying to wean me off of the Zytiga, so I'm still taking like the prednisone and stepping down off of that.
Right.
Because the Zytiga that we got, it was like the generic Zytiga. I was fine on the actual Zytiga itself, but when they switch it to a generic, I began just getting sick out of the blue. It just coming to wipe me out,
Uh-huh.
And
So why didn't he put you back? What's your PSA been doing on that?
so that's the great part, the good part, whatever it was. Started out at like 247, and then once they did the Zytiga and the Lupron, it went all the way down to like 3.
Okay.
So now, so what he's trying to do is take me off of the Zytiga so I can recover some energy and maybe some other things, and he's just going to watch my PSA and to see if it goes up or whatever. see if I can live at a reasonable PSA. You know, I'd prefer not to have any PSA, but
Right. Well, I mean, there's a couple of strange things here. I mean, first of all, why not just go with the regular Zytiga if the Zytiga was working and if your PSA was down to around 3? I mean, that would be a question I would want to ask him. I mean, why take you off of it?
okay.
Secondly, you have to wean off the prednisone. You've got to come off of it very carefully because it can make you real sick if you don't. And I've known guys who have had some big issues.
So
So
I do have a question about that, Rick. So it's like it's skipped. I mean, the prednisone. He wanted me to take like half of. I take basically 20 milligrams a day, and he wanted me to start by taking half of one of those because there were 2 number 10 pills, right? But I think I stepped down too quickly because now I'm only taking like half of a prednisone, half of a 10. So I mean, what are the sickness of prednisone?
there's a couple of things there, and again, I'll open it up, let the guys talk to you. But 2 10s a day is quite a lot. There are guys here who are taking 2 5s a day.
Okay.
So he started you on a fairly heavy dose of prednisone. The thing is that whatever your body gets used to, you've got to come off of, and you've got to come off of slowly.
Okay.
So, if you were taking 2 10s a day, again, I'll let some of the guys tell you how they weaned off. But the bigger issue for me, to be honest, let me ask you, what's your insurance like? You should have, with the union, you should have fairly good insurance, no?
Well, with the union, I had great insurance until I could no longer work anymore. So then once I got off of that, then now I'm on Medi-Cal, so that's not so great, but it hasn't been not so bad either, Kaiser.
And go ahead.
Kaiser had its own bag of tricks, so we just got lucky.
Are you a Kaiser patient?
We were until my insurance, because with the union, my insurance went by how many hours I worked per month,
Right.
So once I was out of work all that time, then that all went away. Although I got great benefits now, as far as my retirement, because they put me on permanent disability, so that's where I'm at now. So I guess now I have to get Blue Cross or something. I don't know.
Well, the first thing is we got to get you to the right doctor, and your local urologist in Templeton is not the right doctor. I know that you originally found us through Jerry Deans. How did you find Jerry Deans?
So I was looking up cancer groups on the web, and somehow I got a hold of a lady. I think she lived in Florida that knew Jerry Dean, and she gave me Jerry Dean's number.
Okay.
He emailed you, so that's
okay.
That's how I'm.
So let's sort of start at the basic, which is that with your disease your disease was in your lungs and your lymph nodes, correct?
Yeah, and obviously the prostate too,
And the prostate, but they didn't see any in the bone, right?
No, not yet. Thank God. I did read that basically 80% of people who have our prostate cancer disease do end up getting it in their bones, but it's not there yet.
Okay. So, what is interesting to hear is that you have a significant PSA originally, because a lot of times we don't see such a high PSA when the disease is in the lungs. But the real question is, because it's in the lungs, and is we need to know more about the disease. And of course, Jerry's disease has been in his lungs forever and a day. For those of you who don't know, Jerry Deans is one of the board members, and he's, I think, the secretary right now of us two. And he's been with He's been a volunteer with us too for many, many years. And he's a friend of ours. He's a very good guy. There are a whole bunch of studies, I think, that tests that really should be run. And I'm not certain that if it were me, I'd just want to be doing Lupron on its own right now. I'd be trying to nail the disease as best as I could. That would be my approach. I think that if it's at all possible, and it should be under Medi-Cal, we need to get you to see a medical oncologist, and preferably one that specializes in prostate cancer.
So if I can interject real quick. So I was seeing an oncologist out here in San Luis Obispo, but me and him really didn't see eye to eye. And he was supposed to be a really good doctor, and maybe he is, but I saw him one time, and I went back 2 weeks after my initial one, and he told my wife and I totally different stuff, and we were like, no, we can't have that right now in our lives, with everything else going on. I can't have somebody that's going to be something one day and something else the next.
Right. But let me just say this, that the guy that you saw was not he wasn't a prostate cancer medical oncologist. He was a general medical oncologist.
Okay.
And I know that because there are no GU med oncs in San Luis Obispo.
Okay. I want to grab
and that's one of the problems, is that where you are, you're either going to have to go south to LA, or you're going to have to go north to San Francisco.
Yeah, we don't really have a problem with that, Rick. We're good with that. We would love that to happen. Okay,
well, I think that probably what we got to do is we got to get you up to, if it were me, I'd be going to UCSF, because it's one of the best prostate cancer hospitals in the country. Not that there isn't good support in LA.
Okay.
But also the fact that you're on Medi-Cal, I don't think is going to be an issue at UCSF. It wouldn't be an issue at UCLA either, for that matter. But I'm pretty certain it's not an issue at UCSF. And there are people that we can refer you to up there, or we can tell you who to ask for in terms of making an appointment. But I think that's the first thing. We've got to move you from a urologist to a medical oncologist, because this is really not the area of expertise of the urologist.
Okay.
So let me open it up for a few minutes to the guys, and then we'll try and pull it all together. First of all, who has been on Zytiga and has weaned off of Zytiga, and how have you done it? Peter.
Yeah, I went off on New Year's Eve, and I was only on 5 milligrams a day.
Of Zytiga?
No, 5 milligrams of prednisone.
Okay.
So I weaned myself off. My medical oncologist is down in LA, and he gave me specific instructions of, go down to, every 1 tablet every 3 days, and then half a tablet. And then, so I weaned myself off in about 2.5, 3 weeks, and I had no trouble at all, but I was taking a very low dose. What 20 milligrams or 10 milligrams or whatever you're taking sounds like a very high dose of prednisone. It's surprising. Right. Anyways, I had one other question. Do you still have urinary retention?
I do, but not as complete as it was when I first had it. And, it was horrible for the first 3 months.
Are you on a catheter? Are you self-catheterized?
The first 3 months I was on a catheter, off a catheter, on a catheter. That's the part of the Kaiser deal. They couldn't they said they ran tests on me in February, and then I went back to see the guy 2 weeks later. He said he did tests on my urine, didn't see a thing. And so we had catheters in until April, when I was finally diagnosed by a different Kaiser in the area.
I sympathize with you because I was on for 8 months when I was diagnosed.
Oh my God.
It was a bear. No.
Yeah.
Anyway, but we can go back to that another time.
Are you in Northern California Kaiser or Southern California Kaiser there?
Me or Peter?
You, Jack.
I was on, I believe this time, the people that helped me out the most, and I really loved them, was Kaiser Fresno. They were just,
Okay.
they really were.
Okay.
They really cared.
One of the reasons I say that is because there's a couple of really good GU med-oncs now with Kaiser, and both of them would serve you very well. So if you wanted to go back into the Kaiser system, we could get you to either of these two docs. Both of them are based out of Oakland. Well, I shouldn't say that. One's based out of Oakland. I think the other one's on the peninsula. I'm not 100% certain. Both of them are UCSF trained. We know both of them, and they're both great docs. And one of them in particular, would probably be, if he was still at Kaiser, at UCSF, he'd be my doctor of choice at UCSF. But obviously, if you're not with Kaiser, then you're not eligible to see him.
Yeah.
But that's just something I want to throw in your mind. Who else? I mean, like I say, that prednisone dose sounds to me awful high. I think it's more than what was used in the trials, in the Cougar trial, if I'm not sure. Len, do you recall what the dosage was in the original trial?
I believe it was 5 milligrams twice a day, so a total of 10.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. And I
So-
wonder why the urologist gave you so much.
Well,
Yeah,
let me
I've
go check my bottle and make sure that that's what the deal is, because it seems
Well,
like that's odd.
Don't worry right now.
Okay.
Anyone else have anything to say on?
Yeah, I have a comment.
Yes,
Jack,
please.
are you, your doctor's taking you off the Zytiga, even though it was working?
Yes, because my energy levels were just totally sapped. I mean, it was, I usually walk my dog at least 2 miles a day, and it would take everything out of me just to do that on the Zytiga, and especially on the generic Zytiga. I was just sapped. I couldn't do anything. And
And you said it made you sick. I mean, are you talking in your stomach or?
yes, it was like, I tried to tell people, if I was to grade the nausea between 1 and 10, it always felt like a 5 or a 6, and it just come on. I mean, I'd be bouncy. I'd be wanting to go to the movie with my wife and everything. And next thing I know, I'd just get hit, and that would be it. Would be it for the next 4 hours.
Were you taking the full dose and the standard protocol, like on an empty stomach?
I was taking 4 250 milligram Zytigas plus the prednisone.
On an empty stomach, right?
No, I always eat.
Oh.
Oh,
Yeah, but again,
that's no
you
good.
cannot. That's a lot of
That
your
was my next
problem.
point. That was my next point. Maybe you could, take less of the Zytiga with food.
Okay.
Because otherwise, you're supposed to take it on an empty stomach.
All
Yeah,
right.
but I mean, but Jake, I want to say something else. I mean, did the urologist not tell you how to take the Zytiga? Because you have to take Zytiga in a very specific way.
Right.
Now, you can modify that and you can take it with food, but you need a lot less.
Correct.
And what
See,
I'm
that's-
worried about is that you're not getting the right instruction from your urologist.
No, no. We've been
The food,
so
if I understand it correctly, the food intensifies the strength of the Zytiga. So if you're taking a full standard dose with food, you're probably getting 3 or 4 times what you should be getting.
that's great.
Yeah, you're being overdosed.
You're being overdosed.
Probably why you were sick.
Right.
I mean, the issue here is, again, it's a very sensitive point with me. I get really crazy about this. But these damn urologists don't know what they're doing. They have no business treating men if they're not well qualified. And he should have told you exactly how you take this Zytiga.
No, so this just real quickly, I gotta express the fact that for my wife and I, it's been a learning experience each single time we go,
Right.
and I told her this last time we went to the urologist, I'm no longer going without a notebook, because I say something to these guys and I go back and see them and they have no, I mean, obviously they have a lot of patience, I get that, but they should still have charts on me and my specific stuff. And so they don't even remember what they told me,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the first thing we got to do is get you to a proper doctor who knows how to treat your disease. And if you were responding well to the Zytiga, it doesn't make a lot of sense to come off of it.
Okay.
There could have been a lot of reasons why you weren't doing well on it. You could have been overdosing, like the guys say. You weren't taking it the right way. It could have been something about the generic. We don't know.
Okay.
But the fact is that there's no good reason to come off of it if it's keeping you low. And yes, there are fatigue issues. All the guys will tell you on this call. I mean, how many guys do we have on this call who have taken Zytiga at some time or the other? Probably 6, 8, maybe more. And they've all felt the fatigue to some degree, and they've all figured out how to work with that fatigue. And, the Lupron too is going to make you very tired. It's not unusual to take a walk and then have to come back and lie down for 40 minutes, but you're going to feel much better for the rest of the day. So, don't, again, let me throw it out for more comments. Who else would like to talk?
Can I, this is Dan. Hi,
Go
can you
ahead,
hear me?
Dan.
Yeah, I sympathize with the issue about being a learning experience. Can I just suggest this? The next time you meet with your doctor, bring your smartphone and record the discussion so you can transcribe it, and so that you don't have to second guess later on that night. Well, what did he say? I'm not too sure. When you record it, it's there, and you can keep it and reference it for your future guidance.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
I do that with my doctor, so.
Who else would like to contribute? Words of wisdom.
I'll just second what Dan just said about taking a recording, because it does help you to refer back and make sure you don't miss something, or, at least you'll be able to then say, this is what you told me to do, and is it right or wrong? But the other question I had is, how often, because you're going to a urologist, how often are you going in for your PSA test? Is it monthly or?
So that has been, for the most part, every 3 months.
Oh yeah, you should go monthly.
That's what my wife and I were thinking also, especially with them taking me off the Zytiga now. He should see what it's doing instead of it skyrocketing.
No, that's absolutely true. Yeah.
Quite right. You're right on the money there, Jackie.
Okay, thank you.
You're right on the money. Ken, do you want to say anything to Jackie about being diagnosed at a younger age?
It's true that it's mental, and it's something you'll have to work through. I mean, the fact is when I was diagnosed, I was a little older than you, but it's something you'll have to deal with. Unfortunately, the cancer is something that I think everyone carries. It's just your immune system, like mine, for whatever reason, decided not to go in and fight the cancer when it needed to. So whether it be a condition of work, probably not. I mean, it was just a weak immune system and or something in your gene sequencing that was turned off and allowed the cancer to grow. I wouldn't beat yourself up about it because it just happens. I mean,
Yeah.
it just happens.
Yeah.
So the thing is, though, you do really, really need to find the right doctor, as I was saying. If you don't, I mean, you're just going to get bad information after bad information, and it's going to require you to travel. I mean, I fly from Phoenix to Houston, and my doctor is here locally, but the guy that's actually giving the treatment protocol is in Houston. So it's something you can manage. I've been dealing with ADT for 2 years now. I haven't taken Zytiga. Sounds like you possibly were just misinformed in regards to how to take it, but I'm not sure. And I'm not sure about the dosage or how to take. Again, I'm not a doctor, so I don't really know that stuff. But I would try to find and get into the right person.
Okay.
And
Do you have any kids, Jackie?
Yeah, I have a son and a daughter, and they're grown. I have grandkids.
How old's your son?
He's 31 right now, and we've told him to make sure he gets checked and all that. Since
Yeah, he does. He needs to get checked. I mean, some people will say 35 for the first time, provided he doesn't have any type of symptoms, at least to get a baseline PSA. I don't even think it hurts to get a baseline PSA at 30 if the doctor will do it. It's only so that we know where he is, so it gives us a frame of reference. It gives us a baseline. So when we test again at 35, we can see if anything has happened or anything has changed. There are some other issues too, which is, do you have any cancer in your family, Jack?
different cancers, not the prostate, but there has been a history of cancer in the family, kind of far removed from me, like two great uncles on either side. One had leukemia and one had a testicular cancer,
Okay.
but no immediate family.
Okay. But no knowledge of, say, breast cancer or pancreatic cancer or ovarian cancer or anything like that in any near family?
No.
Okay. Well, I mean, again, especially since it is in the lungs, it probably wouldn't hurt to do some genetic testing, but if we get you to the right doc, they're going to do that as a matter of course.
Okay.
So let me give you a couple of names at UCSF.
Okay.
My go-to guy there now would probably be Dr. Terry Friedlander, Friedlander, Terry Friedlander. And secondly, I would say Dan Louis, who just spoke to us, Dan Louis' doc, Rahul Agarwal, Rahul, Rahul, and the last name is Agarwal, Aggarwal.
Wait, can you spell that again?
Yeah, the first name is Rahul, Rahul.
Okay.
And his last name is Agarwal, Aggarwal.
Okay.
And then if you decide you want to get into the Kaiser system, and I would be looking to see Won Kim, WonKim, Won Kim. He's fantastic. He's a fabulous doc. Great doc. But like I say, that would be in Kaiser, and then, but let me know. I've got a backup if you can't get in to see one, but I think we could, if you did go to Kaiser, we could get you there. The pros and cons with Kaiser are they've got a couple of great docs there now, but sometimes it's much harder to access some of the treatments through Kaiser.
Oh.
And so at least at UCSF, we know that if a treatment is appropriate, we're not going to have problems accessing it.
Okay.
Jack, can I make a comment? In case you
Sure.
missed any of this information, we are recording this, so you can go back later to our YouTube channel and replay it
Okay.
in case you missed a name or whatever.
Okay.
It's always
Cool.
useful to do.
Okay. I'm writing it down too. So
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, and the other thing, Jack, is that on the third Thursday of the month, which is the 21st this month, we have a men-only call called Speaking Freely. You join it exactly the same way you join this call right now.
Okay.
And that is really to talk about all the issues that aren't about treatment, that are raised by cancer, like, getting diagnosed young and how that makes you feel, and how you tell people at work what it's like to be on disability at age 54 and things like that. So
Okay.
that might be a really good call for you to join. Mr. Jackson, can you talk? Are you with us there in the emergency room? No. Okay, well, Rich is the moderates that call. He does a wonderful job. He was joining us from the emergency room because his father-in-law was sick. I guess he's not on the line right now, but I was just going to ask him to say a couple of words to you. But again, you're very, very welcome. And also tell your wife that we have a caregivers call for people who are looking after someone with advanced cancer, and that call is tomorrow. It's on the first and third Tuesdays.
First and third. Okay.
First and third Tuesdays. So that call is tomorrow at same time, 6 o'clock, and she joins it exactly the same way you're joining this, and that's for caregivers.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So anything else before we close out with Jackie?
Rick, this is Dennis. One last question for you. This strikes me as very unusual to have a metastasis to the lung without any metastasis to the bone.
Mm-hmm.
Is this not something that's that common, or I've just never heard of it? And all the stuff I've looked into with prostate cancer.
It's not that common, but it happens. That was Rob's situation. Certainly that's the situation with Jerry Dean's. And we do see sometimes that the cancer populates the soft tissue first rather than the bone. When that happens, it probably is a good sign that we need to do some more testing and to see if we can find out what's unusual. The first thing that would come to my mind would be that it could well be some sort of small cell or neuroendocrine tumor. But in that case, we probably would not have seen a PSA of 247 in the first place. Jackie, did they ever do a biopsy? I mean, how were you diagnosed?
They did a biopsy on the prostate and on the not the lung, but the lymph nodes.
On the lymph nodes. And what did they give you a Gleason score?
They did. It was pretty aggressive. They haven't given me a Gleason score since this whole thing started out. And for some reason, I want to say it was at like 5 and 4 or 5 and 6 but
right, 5 plus 4 makes sense, but let us know, and that's quite likely. Did they? You probably won't remember this, but do you remember if it said anywhere in the biopsy report adenocarcinoma?
No, but I'll look that up.
Yeah, have a look. And I mean, I just want to see. Yeah, I'd like. You might want to send me a copy of your biopsy report. I'd be interested to see what they look for. But to answer Dennis's question, I mean, it does raise some interesting issues, and I think that we would probably, you know, a good GU MedOnc is going to do some more testing to see if we can actually figure out what's going on. Now,
Okay.
who was I talking to last week? I was talking to somebody last week. Oh, MD Anderson. Talking to somebody who was at MD Anderson, and they're in a trial there, and they're not working with corn, but they're working with a woman who specializes in variant prostate cancers at MD Anderson. Aparicio is her name. Aparicio. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of reason to do more testing, and you've got to get yourself to a more qualified and a more specialized doc, Jack.
Okay. Thank you. I definitely will.
So
Okay, and
I'd like to
yes.
make one quick comment. You might not agree with me, Rick, but if Jack gets stalled, if like UCSF or something puts him off for 2 months to get into a good doc, he could call Marina Del Rey and probably get in next week. I mean, they push the head of the line, but you might not like that. Okay.
No, it's not that I don't like it, but he's on Medi-Cal.
Okay.
Do you
Well,
know?
they might take it. I don't know.
Prostate. See, I don't. I thought of it, but I don't know that prostate oncology will take Medi-Cal.
All he has to do is call up. Yeah. They'll tell him.
Well,
I have
go
a
ahead.
question. Hi, guy. Hi.
Well, hold on a minute, Larry. Let's just finish this. Let me just finish this issue.
Sure.
Why don't you see if you can get in to see Friedlander? And if you cannot, let us know.
Okay.
And then we have some other suggestions. Peter's suggestion could be a viable suggestion down in LA, but it's a private GU MedOnc. And so I don't know if they'll take Medi-Cal or not. And, you know, a lot of the private doctors don't take Medi-Cal. And that's why I didn't suggest it to you. Not because I had anything against the doctor, but because I don't think they take Medi-Cal.
Okay. Okay.
So start with UCSF, because I'm pretty certain they do.
So I have one last question as far as treatment, and it's become taboo now almost, is the pain management, because I have a herniated disc, I have sciatic nerve, and now ever since this stuff began, my pain levels are kind of off the charts some days, you know.
Right.
They're prescribing me 7.5 oxycodone, but on those days when nothing works, like it's been rainy and cold out here, and some days nothing works, and it's like, I don't want to ask because of the whole, pardon me, but the whole opioid crisis thing, you know, I'm not.
Right. So one of the good things about going to somewhere like UCSF is that they actually have a symptom management service, SMS, and they have doctors who are specifically trained to help you work with pain management.
Okay.
And so if you got in to see Friedlander and you knew you were going up, you would at the same time also ask him to make an appointment with the SMS service. And again, we know the doctors there, or some of them, and we can recommend doctors, but it would be easy for you to have an appointment with the medical oncologist and then go over and talk to the pain management group. Well, I say easy. The medical oncologists are usually down in Mission Bay, and I think the SMS service could be at Mount Zion. but it's logistics. The thing is, it's all in the same organization. So
Okay.
we're not referring you. Like if you went to prostate cancer oncology, which you could do, if you needed pain management services there, they're going to have to refer you to a whole nother doctor. So it's, so one of the nice things is that everything will be there for you.
Okay.
Larry Fish, you wanted to say something.
Sorry, hi. Maybe I missed it, but so you didn't have a biopsy, a lung biopsy of the lung tumor?
No, and we've been wondering about that ourselves, my wife and I, because nobody has suggested it. Not Kaiser, not the oncologist, not the urologist, and we're like, well, it's in my lungs, so why don't you? Because they were worried about complications happening, But I'm 53 and I'm basically in pretty good shape. I don't know why they wouldn't have done that. If that's where it is and if that's where the problem lies, then why not go in there and figure it out?
Yeah, I was just curious how did they write up what they diagnosed it as a metastasis from the prostate? How did they come to that determination? Did it say something like probably or possibly or most probably in the report?
No, they did the dye and everything, and saw them in my lungs. I mean, some of them are between the quarter size and a nickel size in my lungs, and growing. So
Yeah, I was just curious how they knew that it was or why they think that it's a metastasis, or it's cancerous, definitely.
I will definitely send my report to Rick and have him take a look at it, because I can't really make heads or tails of it.
Yeah, I'm so sorry for your condition. I feel so must be scary,
Yeah.
But I'm still trying to understand why they didn't really try to determine exactly what's going on with the lungs. That was my question.
I had the same concern. Jackie, do you have any risk factors for lung cancer? Are you a smoker, ex-smoker?
So, back in my heyday, there was drug use, and I am an electrician, and since I was the thinnest one on the crew, I would always be the one going up into the attics, above the T-bar ceilings, and some of those were asbestos. We've even abated, Social Security, one of the 4 Social Security offices in the United States, that had to be abated, 7 floors, and we did all of that, and I'm pretty sure that I was up there at a time when they hadn't abated yet, because we're cowboys and we do stupid things,
Well, yeah, there are a lot of question marks here. I think Rick's got you on the right track, sending you to a GU medical oncologist. They'll sort all that out for you.
Okay.
All right, we've got to move along because I've got a lot of guys on the call tonight. But you'll stay in touch. The next meeting is next Tuesday. Keep us posted. You're on the list, Jackie. You get the emails, and in the interim, if you need some help, you can give us a buzz.
Okay.
Okay, so let me run down and see who would like some time tonight. So Jake, anything for you, sir? Well, I think he's gone off.
No, I'm here, Rick. No, not for me.
Oh, okay. Ken Anderson, anything for you tonight?
No, I'm just going to listen in, thanks.
Okay. Jim Ward, anything for you tonight, sir?
I only have a question that I might just put to the group, and this is just generally.
Okay. We'll come back to you. I'm just checking who needs some time.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Okay. Dick Bailey, how are you? We haven't heard from you for a while.
I'm doing fine. I'll just do a quick update on my treatments.
Terrific. Okay, excellent. We got a guy starting ProVenge next week, so you can give him some encouragement. Les Shelderup, anything for you tonight, sir?
Maybe just a quick update, that'd be all.
Okay. Dan Louie, anything for you?
Yeah, kind of both an update and a question.
Okay. John Appler, anything for you tonight?
I'm okay, Rick. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Peter, you had something, I know, so we'll come to you. Len, anything for you? If we've got time, maybe you could just tell people about the conference.
Sure, we could keep that to the end.
Okay. Mr. Jackson, are you back with us?
Oh, he never left. He's just been sitting there muted listening. Nothing for me tonight. Thank you.
Oh, we called on you a few minutes ago to tell Jackie about speaking freely.
Well, I can give that now if you'd like. Give him the 1 minute spiel.
Well, we told him about it, but he didn't get to hear your wonderful baritone.
Probably our best option at the moment would be just remind him the third Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern.
Okay.
Same time, same channel.
Okay. Dennis, anything for you tonight, sir?
Just gonna sit here and listen and learn.
Okay. Paul Frieda, we will try to check in with you so you can let people know what's going on.
Nothing for me tonight. I just listening. That's all.
Okay. Well, if we've got time, we'll check in. People should know where you're listening from. Carl Foreman.
Yes, and from the person who will be starting on ProVids next week. Yes.
Yes. Larry Fish, anything else for you?
Nothing tonight, thanks, Rick.
Okay, Joe Blanchette, welcome back. Anything for you tonight?
No, just listening tonight. Thank you much.
Okay. Did I get everybody? Has anyone else come in that I missed? Oh, Sylvester, excuse me. Sylvester, I'm so sorry.
No, that's perfectly okay, and I hope you can hear me. I don't have the earphones on tonight.
We can hear you perfectly. Another sultry baritone on our call. Okay, I think I've covered everybody. So let's start off with Jim Ward.
Hey, good evening, guys. So I'm actually just, days away from starting the Zytiga and the prednisone myself. And I guess particularly in light of Jackie's experience, I guess I'm just kind of interested in what the collective wisdom is about kind of do's and don'ts. I'm on Lupron now and started that in early January. And I just get the sense that Zytiga sort of, is kind of, it's a different, or perhaps can be a different ball game, especially when it's coupled with the prednisone. So I know, for example, or I've read that, since it works through the liver, you got to be really careful about alcohol. And I don't know, I'm just kind of looking for tips and tricks, I guess, for how to best kind of make it through it.
Who would like to take that one?
I just came off of it for a year, and I had no problems with it at all. The only one slight problem was about 30% of us get higher blood pressure from it. That was it. So I took blood pressure medication. That was the only side effect I really had. I had no problem with it in terms of energy, nausea, nothing. I took a full dose every day, and I was fine with it. I just wake up.
That's great.
When I got up to pee in the morning, like at 5 or something like that, or whatever it was, I'd take it because you're supposed to take it a couple of hours before you eat anything. I had no trouble
Well,
with
that's
it
great
at all.
to hear. Well, it's great to hear you had a good experience. Who was that who made that comment?
This is Peter. I'm in Maui, Hawaii.
Okay, Peter. All right. Thank you. Yeah, I guess I had heard about the potential problems with, blood pressure, cardiovascular stuff, and I guess that worries me a little bit because that's where the real family history is. as some people on the call know, there's no history of cancer in the family, and I'm kind of like Jackie. I was diagnosed at 53. I just turned 54 on March 1st, and it came out of the blue. So yeah, I thought it was going to be cardiovascular that was going to get me, and I suppose it may yet, but
we hope not. Who else has been on Zytiga that would like? Well, we've got a few. We've got Len. We've got Dan. Who else would like to say something about Zytiga?
Yeah, I was only on Zytiga for 3 months, Jim. Like Peter, I didn't have much fatigue, but I did have additive brain fog, additive to the Lupron, which was one of the reasons why I took a break from it. But generally, oncologists will steer patients away from Zytiga and toward enzalutamide or apalutamide if they have a history of metabolic syndrome or risk factors for diabetes, because you do need to take the prednisone. The other issue with Zytiga is it's generally taken without food, and some people are starting to take it with food. You would take 1/4 of the dose, but I wouldn't do that unless you talked it over with your doctor and he approved of what you're doing.
okay. Yeah, I definitely gathered that makes a big difference from the earlier comments. So
yeah.
Well,
I mean, Jim, I would say, and because Len raises an important issue, I would say it's probably worth discussing with your KU oncologist there whether you're better off with enzalutamide or with abiraterone, given the CVD issues in your family.
yeah, I may have that conversation. I guess I'm in this. Maybe the reason I'm on Zytiga is because, knock on wood, I haven't had any real cardiovascular issues. That I've been concerned about that for so long that my diet, my lifestyle has really been to avoid those sorts of things. So I don't have high blood pressure, for example, and
right.
Don't really have high cholesterol or any of those things. So that could be why there wasn't much hesitation to put me on Zytiga. But I know it's something I'll have to watch, including the blood pressure. So.
Well, there's not a lot of difference in the outcomes between Zytiga and enzalutamide. So, the benefit, they work very differently, but they have pretty much the same effect. And the benefit of the enzalutamide is that you don't have to be on prednisone. Before you start, you might want to check it out. Now, the other issue, of course, is that with both enzalutamide and abiraterone, Zytiga and Xtandi, about 30 to 40% of men fail because they're ARV7 positive. So that's a possibility for everybody out there, because you just don't know if you carry that mutation or not.
That kind of went over my head, whatever you just said, said there. But
so there is a mutation called androgen receptor variant 7, and if you are positive for that variant, it's unlikely that either abiraterone or enzalutamide, which is Zytiga or Xtandi, are going to work for you. If they do, it probably will be for a shortish time, no more than 4 months, anywhere from 30 days to 4 months, if that. And we can test for that right now, although a lot of doctors don't test for it because they say, well, we'll see, it's not going to hurt you, and if you're good on it, then You can stay on it, and if you're not good on it, then we'll talk about the next step. Of course, what that doesn't take into consideration is the time that you take to check it out and the cost of the drug to you, particularly the supplemental cost, the copay.
Yeah.
So, but the ARV7 affects both those drugs, not just one. But anyway, I'm just thinking that you might want to have that discussion with them. Somebody else, was it you, Dennis, that wanted to talk about Zytiga?
Yeah, it's Carl.
Oh, Carl. Sorry, Dennis first and then Carl.
Okay, Jim, this is Dennis Correa. I've been on the Zytiga with the prednisone, 2.5 milligrams twice a day, a little over a year. And I would agree with what Len says. Maybe a slight increase in some of the symptoms like the hot flashes, that type of thing. But what seems to be new to me is a slight cognitive decline and inability to really focus. I have to be without any distraction whatsoever to be able to focus and do anything of any that requires concentration. But it did work. It worked very well. It took me down to, I've been on it now, and since I've been on it, my PSA is down to less than 0.1 and holding steady. And you will get blood work, I think, every 2 months to start out anyway, just to check everything to make sure that you're not having an adverse effect on your body in any other ways. And the other thing is I will be going this year for this month for a full cardio workup, which my doctor has recommended also, because it does have that, could possibly have that impact. So we'll find out about that, but that's all I have.
Oh, thanks, Dennis. I'm glad it's worked so well for you. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, not only has it worked well for Dennis, but it's alleviated some of his arthritic pain, so it's easier for him to play golf. Now, some of us are not retired. We recognize that, but for those of us who are, that could be a side benefit, right, Dennis?
Yes, absolutely. That's the prednisone impact. It's corticosteroid, so kind of like the same thing. You would go get an injection in your joint or something if you had really bad arthritis. I've got it. And I used to have back pain all the time before my diagnosis. And since the prednisone, I'll play golf, literally almost zero pain. So I do have a hip that's bothered me though. It's helped that a little bit, but not enough to make me really say I don't need to do anything about it.
Carl, you wanted to say something about Zytiga.
Yes, I definitely concur about the cognitive decline and issues and brain fog. Other than that, fairly well tolerated. I was on it for 6 months, and until it started failing for me. I had hoped to be on it for a year or two, but at the very beginning, when my then new oncologist had determined a course of action, he said, well, let's start you on an initial course of docetaxel. And I said to him, I said, well, based upon my research, I understand that Zytiga is comparable in its effectiveness without all of the toxic side effects. And he said, well, let me get back to you. And 2 days later, he called me up. He said, I concur, so let's start on the Zytiga. So the point I'm trying to make is that you're your own best advocate, and you have to be as knowledgeable as you can.
Yeah, clearly. Wow.
The only thing I would just say, and trials have shown that the biggest bang for your buck does come from the chemo. But it may have more side effects, and we really haven't seen those trials in of the chemo versus the Zytiga in early stage disease, because the approvals at much earlier stages have sort of crept in over the last 2 or 3 years. But if you go look at the trials, you do see a better bang for your buck from the chemo. I think it's fair to say. Len, would you agree on that or not?
Sorry, Rick, I had taken a break and I just got back. I did not hear the conversation.
Oh, Carl said that he talked his GU med-oncs into doing Zytiga before chemo. And I said, well, the only thing I would say is that the chemo seems to deliver a bigger bang for based on the trials. And by the way, there's a very good discussion about that on our website between Chris Sweeney, Chuck Ryan, and Alicia Morgans. And they all talk about it, which Carl did listen to, I know. But there's no question that Zytiga is more attractive than doing chemo to most men. Do you have any comment on Zytiga versus chemo?
Well, I agree with you. There's no evidence that docetaxel or chemo is better than Zytiga in treating guys with metastatic prostate cancer. So I think it's best to go up front with the Zytiga because of the fewer side effects, and then if necessary, add in docetaxel later.
Yeah, I mean, I would only say that there is evidence that the docetaxel gives you more survival than the Zytiga, but it's a question of when you get it. We don't know that.
I think that was true in the trial only for high volume disease.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct. That's true too. Anyway, Carl, see, you've ignited some debate here.
As usual.
Anybody else or Jim? I think we've given you and Jackie, we've given you a fair cross section of people's experience with Zytiga when taken properly, I will say.
Right.
And that is really important. You got to take this drug properly.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I'm going to ask one more question just to try to elicit very just brief answers. I have no idea how long do most people take Zytiga. I know it varies, but I don't have any kind of sense of how long you might expect to take it. I guess just who knows.
Well, the poster boy was our dear co-founder, my good buddy Rob Beniscus, who passed last year, who got 4.5 years out, and who, by the way, had lung mets on diagnosis, and he was diagnosed very young, almost 10 years before you were, Jackie. But he got 4.5 years out of Zytiga, so he did really, really well on it. Normally it's anywhere from, as I say, 30 days to 18 months to 2 years. Anybody else want to talk about how long they get out of Zytiga or they've gotten out of Zytiga?
Rick, I suspect it has something to do with the Gleason score. So if you were a Gleason 7 and you're metastatic or castrate resistant, you'll probably do better on Zytiga, or you'll have a longer durable remission from it than if you're more high risk Gleason score of 8, 9, or 10.
Mm-hmm.
which is probably true for any therapy.
Yeah, although I think that Rob was high Gleason.
Was he? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Any other comments from anybody on how long to expect out of Zytiga?
I think there are too many other complicating factors, Rick, to come up with a kind of a number like that.
Yeah.
Well, there's any studies that really, but there's just so many other factors.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's kind of what I expected. Well, thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate everybody's comments.
Of course. All right, Dick Bailey, tell us how you did on Provenge.
Well, I did my Provenge treatments January and the first part of February. Everything went well, but I had donated platelets for many years, so I knew kind of what to expect, and there were no side effects or anything for that. As soon as I finished that, my urologist oncologist put me on. I started Yanza a month ago, and I'm getting checked every 2 weeks, lab tests for that. And then I see my urology oncologist tomorrow. As a matter of fact, is the normal date. So see what kind of readings I have. But I take that, and then I take a 5 milligram prednisone twice a day. And then I just finished up with my. I did radiation on my spot on my T5. Just finished that today. Did 10 treatments on that. So that's kind of not related to prostate cancer because it's metastatic, but that's what I finished today. So.
Well, it is. I mean, because that was the spot radiation on T5, right? From the metastatic. So yeah. And how are you doing on the Yonza? For those of you who aren't familiar, Yonza is another formulation of the abiraterone. So it's a comparable drug to Zytiga.
Yeah, they say it's new. Just came off of test not too long ago, and so he's putting me on that. See how we're doing on that. I see him tomorrow, so see how we're doing. But I don't really have any noticeable side effects as far as fatigue or anything like that. At least not yet, anyway. So it's been a month.
Okay. What's your and of course you're still doing Firmagon, or have they switched?
Yeah, I do Firmagon and Extrema.
Right. And what's your latest PSA?
Well, I haven't had one that I've seen for a month now. It was I'm thinking it was like a 1.8 or something like that, but they're hoping it'll go down because I just slightly climbed after my initial treatments of the other Firmagon and the Xgeva, and then it started my PSA started climbing just a little bit.
Right.
That's why they did the the Provenge, and so. But I haven't actually seen. I had 2 labs done, but I haven't seen the results of those yet. So.
Okay. Carl Foreman, would you like to ask Dick about his Provenge experience?
I guess based upon everything I've been hearing, including from my oncologist, it should be pretty much a non-event. I'm not expecting any complications whatsoever. The only issue I potentially was thinking of is a snowstorm, which would not get me to the place on time, because we know that timing is very critical. I'm going to be starting it next Tuesday, so it's going to be a Tuesday, Friday kind of scenario, and we are still in wintertime here in the middle of New Jersey. So, but next week it's going back up into the 40s and 50s. It's in the teens and low 20s for the rest of this week, but I don't think that would be an issue. I know that the first part of it, the leukapheresis, is it's the one that's more time consuming, what, 3 to 5 hours, I understand. But then the second part where you're putting the Provenge back into your body, that's when there might be some side effects, although I've been hearing minimal as far as flu-like chills and fever potentially. But other than that, I don't really expect much of anything.
Well, the leukapheresis part, on my experience of what I did, and there was several people in there. Like I say, I knew the people at the blood center that did the leukapheresis because I donated there for so long. It was about 3 hours, and the infusion on the 3 days after was about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours on maybe the first one, but then she bumped it up a little bit the next two. I had a little bit of chills the first night at the first infusion, but nothing after that. Never really noticed any side effects, but it's pretty straightforward, like you said. And it took about 3 hours. They said they recommend you wear a Depends or something like that because you can't get up and go to the bathroom, of course. And fortunately, I didn't have to, but I could have came pretty close.
How did you keep yourself busy for 3 to 5 hours?
Well, they have at our blood center. They have TV, so and since I was the first one in there in the morning, I got to pick the channel I wanted to watch. So that's what our blood center. They have TVs in all their rooms. So
the guys I know used to download a movie onto their iPad and take it in and watch a movie.
But I guess you also have to stay stiff because you have tubes on both your arms, right? One for coming in, one for going out.
Yeah, they have the chairs they put out there, and your arms are supported, and you can move around a little bit, but you can't bend your arms, of course. But like I say, I donated platelets for quite a few years, so I was kind of knew what to expect, and so that really didn't bother me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so Dick, that's a good update, and come back soon. Tell us how your we want to hear progression on your PSA or going further down. That's what we want to hear.
Yeah, that's from me too. That's what I want to hear tomorrow.
Okay.
Yes. I'd like to ask Dick a question about the Janssen. I'm curious, what was the discussion? Was there a discussion with your oncologist as to why he wanted to put you on Janssen as opposed to Zytiga? And how long did you say you were on it?
I've been on it for a month now.
1 month, okay.
And he's pretty well stays up to date. He goes to a lot of the things, and he said this was actually, he thought it was better than the Zytiga as far as the way you take it and everything. I can take it with or without food. It even says that in there. Doesn't affect it one way or the other. Normally I take it with my breakfast. He said you can take it with or without food. Of course, the prednisone you have to take with food. So.
And was there any insurance issues? No problem covering?
Well, I'm on Medicare. Then I have a supplement, and then the urology clinic we go to, they found a grant to cover deductible if there is any, which I haven't seen a bill, so I don't even know what kind of bill I'm getting for anything. But pretty much they've covered between my insurance and the grants they found. They've covered everything on the Provenge. They're covering pretty much all my Xgeva shots, and so I've had very little out of pocket expense, which is kind of nice.
Great.
Okay, thanks.
I'll find out tomorrow what kind of copay there is possibly. I don't know.
Okay, let's move along. Les Shelderup, give us an update.
Okay, I did go up to Mayo Clinic and got my test, the C11 choline PET scan, etc., and everything seemed clear at this point. So there was, and the PSA was less than 0.1, so there was actually not much to report. The only comment, like Carl had said about the weather, that was the biggest issue going up there in southern Minnesota. They were pretty well socked in. It's about a 300-mile drive up there, and there was about the first 40 miles was seasonal roads. Otherwise, it was either snow ice packed or travel not advised until the last few hours that we got there, before we got there. So we lucked out.
Wow. Wow. So this C11 that you had, it showed that the PBRT had been successful.
Yeah, apparently, yes. The only thing that showed up at all was there was a few, I don't know what you call it, fuzzy areas, or a couple fuzzy areas in my chest, which had been there for about 3 years. They assume that's not active cancer. It was probably just some inflammation, but it just showed up as a little fuzzy area on the scan. But they saw nothing that indicated active cancer at this time.
That's great. That's really good news.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's hard to beat. I don't have any more questions. Anybody else want to have any questions for Les about either his recent results or the PBRT that he did to his abdominal lymph nodes?
Well, I'm glad to hear your PSA is less than 0.1 less. I'm just puzzled why they would even bother with the C11 choline scan, because there's no way that scan is going to pick up a PSA lesion pick up a lesion at that low of a PSA. Be interesting to have a discussion with your doctor about that. Why were they interested in scanning you?
Well, I kind of wondered the same thing, since he had told me, way back when, that it needs to be up, at least in the 1 range before it'll pick up anything. So I was kind of wondering the same thing. Also, I was concerned about the number of these scans. On one of the things that I'd read, that they said, yeah, the choline PET scan is okay or good, but don't have too many of them. Well, I think this is about a number 10, and
Wow.
that sounds excessive to me.
Yeah.
I asked Dr. Kwan about that, and he kind of questioned it. He asked me to send him any of the information that I had read, that you shouldn't have too many of them. And I have not done that yet. I haven't found it again.
There was something about it on Mike Scott on Prostate Cancer International this week. He referenced what's the name of the dye that they use that may give you problem?
Gadolinium?
Yeah, gadolinium.
That accumulates in the brain.
But that's for MRIs. That's not PET scans.
Oh, that's true. That's
okay.
Yeah, good point, Jake.
That's only for MRIs, the gadolinium. Is that right, Jake?
As far as I know, yes.
Okay. Okay.
The dye is flucyclovine for the Oxman scan.
Right. And C11 acetate. And this is this was a C11 acetate scan, but okay, forget that. Scrub that. All right. Anything else to contribute to Les?
I guess I had a question concerning the different types of PET scans. I had a PET scan today, and it was the Aximum PET scan that was recommended that I have. And also I understood that the PSA should have been at least a certain level to be able to pick up certain things in the scan. But in speaking with the radiologist, who is well known in the Northeast here, he said he's done Aximum PET scans with people and at very small levels of PSA, so it wasn't a concern or issue for him. So the C11 versus the Aximum. I understand the Aximum covers tissue as well as bone. I'm not sure what the C11 is in comparison.
Who would like to take that one?
I believe they both pick up bone and tissue. I know
Oh.
Axiom does. I'm pretty sure C11 choline does as well.
Well, with mine it has picked up those two spots on my spine that were cancerous that they ended up freezing, and of course it picked up the lymph nodes. So both of those had been picked up from the C11 choline.
Right.
Yeah, I can say that the Aximum itself, it was quoted to me as being in the $4,500 just for Aximum. And I'm probably liable for 20% of that, but I don't know if that's more or less expensive than the other.
Well, they advertised the C11 choline PET scan is $16,000. It says so right on your appointment schedule that it costs $16,000 if whatever your insurance or Medicare doesn't pick up, you're liable for. But that number, 16,000, is right on the paper.
Wow.
And so you've had 10, and have you been responsible for any significant portion of that, Les?
None so far that I know of. I'm counting 10 being the ones that they had to do it twice because they screwed it up, but I still got exposed, that everything got pumped into one arm. They apparently missed the vein. I got everything in my arm. But I counted that because I got that much radiation and everything that time.
So we need to move this along because we have about half an hour. We still have a few people to touch base with. But one thing I have done, Carl, is put in the chat window a very good review of all the different types of scans and where they are sensitive, which is written by Alan Adele. I'm not sure we would on this call fully agree with the guy, the Radonk today, who said that he's picked Axiom up at very low levels. I mean, yes, we know it is effective over 0.2, but the sweet spot for the Axiom is probably around a PSA level above 0.65. Same thing is true. Len, what's the sweet spot for the PYL that you're thinking of doing?
All I know is that they'll take you into the trial if your PSA is at least 0.2. But in Alan's chart that you just set up the link for in the chat box, in his table, he states that the PYL is the most sensitive at this moment.
Right. And I'll also say that take you in that trial, the NIH trial at 0.2, but in effect, they're not taking anybody that's under 0.5, is what we've heard.
Oh, could be. I haven't heard that.
I mean, we've had people that have applied under 0.5 and they've been told, no, we've got such high demand, we want people over 0.5 at this point.
Okay.
So, but either way, what's your level, Carl?
The last time it was given was 0.55.
Yeah. So, hopefully you're there, but I mean, I think there are sweet spots for these trials. And again, I always get nervous when a guy that's making money tells you that you can see results at very low PSA levels, because we've had people that haven't seen results at those levels. Okay, I'm going to move along to Dan Louie. Go ahead, Dan.
Hi, Rick. How you doing? And thank you again for the time. Just an update. I've gone through some chemotherapy, a different approach last time, early February. This required me to have an overnight stay where the cabazitaxel was diluted and metered out slowly into my body. And after that was provided, then came a solution of carboplatin. This last session required me to stay overnight, so I found it enjoyable. It took a long time for 6 to 7 hours with an overnight stay. Checked out the next morning. So at that time, just to let you know, in January my PSA was almost 28. When I took the chemotherapy mid-February, it dropped down to 41. So I suppose that it will drop down even further with the next chemo session planned for next week. So that's where I'm at right now. Like you said, Argowal is my oncologist, and because of his workload schedule, I've been seeing the nurse practitioners in lieu of Dr. Argowal. So it's been both Bridget as well as Tammy that I've been seeing because of staffing changes within the within the oncology group. Right now, I took some scans today, both CT as well as the nuclear medicine. The results of the CT shows no new changes, a reduced amount of nodules, so I'm kind of glad about that part. I'll get the nuclear medicine test results perhaps tomorrow, but we'll see what happens. Next week, I'll be seeing Dr. Agarwal, and then I'll have another chemo session also next week. But now the question I have is this. Cabazitaxel, which is the change from docetaxel, also known as Gestana. How long have people been on this combination plus carboplatin? Has there been some expected amount that maybe at some point I can only go so long, and then maybe I'll have to change over to a new approach? And then is there any further options for me if these two combination chemicals don't work anymore?
Right. So let me just back up a second. First of all, I'm really pleased to hear that you're getting results from something. It's about time, and that's great. I know you had a bunch of this carbo and cabazitaxel before, but when they didn't give it to you on this slow drip basis, you had bad reactions. So the fact that you're getting a good reaction is probably a result of one having had, this would be what that was your third infusion of the combination, Dan?
Yes.
So that it's building up, because we sometimes see this. It has to build up. It takes time to take effect. And your PSA down to 40 and reduced cancer from at least the scans you've seen is pretty positive. It's good news. I'm happy. I don't have enough knowledge to tell you how long you can stay on this treatment. The common wisdom is you stay on it for as long as it works and as long as you can tolerate it. Yes, we know people that have been on docetaxel and cabazitaxel for years and years, but the combination, just don't know. This combination was actually discussed with Professor Bill right now, but I'm not sure if he's going to do it or if he's just going to do carboplatin or either. In terms of what's next, for somebody like yourself, I would be thinking about lutetium, and specifically to do it whilst you're strong enough. Don't wait too long if you're going to do the lutetium, and if you're eligible. One interesting comment I saw today from Professor Bill's doc at Dana-Farber is that in a lot of these trials, if you've had two different types of chemo, more than two different types of chemo, you may not be eligible. But if the carboplatin and the cabazitaxel are combined together, that it may just count as one chemo.
Okay,
again, it's just sort of monkeying around, but I think that, I keep going with this, obviously, because now we're seeing some results, but I'd have in mind lutetium PSMA. Is there a trial? Is there a lutetium PSMA trial at UCSF? Do you know?
Let me check. Hey, did they say that there's a lutetium trial upcoming? Did you get any idea if a lutetium trial will be upcoming? But you're not eligible. Oh, well, the answer is there's knowledge of one, but it's been probably perceived that I'm not eligible. Like you say, I've been exposed to a combination of two different chemicals already, so that may be deem me unqualified to participate in that trial.
Well, push it. Don't just say you're not eligible, because you could say, look, I did the docetaxel and now I'm doing this as a combination, and it came from the doctor, Dana-Farber, that it may not be an issue. So
okay, well,
and again, and discuss it with Agarwal rather than the nurse practitioners.
Okay, yeah, we'll approach that issue again tomorrow when we see him.
Okay, well, anyone else like to say anything to Dan?
Dan, this is Peter. Bracket 2 positive?
Peter.
Hi, Dan. Are you bracket 2 positive? Is that what the carbo is for?
Let me check. Am I bracket 2 positive, May? Okay. Am I bracket 2 positive?
No, you're
no,
not.
No, the answer is
anything.
Okay, nothing. I'm negative on that.
Okay.
Yeah. I think the reason why they bought in the carboplatin, Peter, was because they weren't really finding anything that Dan was responding to. He didn't do well on the docetaxel. I mean, it wasn't that he didn't do well. He didn't get a good result out of it.
Right.
And they felt that maybe there was some sort of a morphing of the cancer that might get a result out of carboplatin.
That's correct. That's true. That's thought at that time.
Yeah. So I'm really happy. I'm really happy that you sound good, and I'm just thrilled, and I'm so glad that they found a way to administer it to you in this slow drip fashion.
Yeah.
So that you don't get sick.
Yeah.
And
definitely. And when we see Agarwal tomorrow, we'll ask if it's appropriate that we have inpatient versus outpatient, because the slow drip diluted approach seemed to work best. So we'll confer with Dr. Agarwal if this is appropriate for the next session.
How often are you getting these sessions? Once a month?
About every 3 weeks.
Every 3 weeks. Okay. And have they changed the way they're giving you the carboplatin?
No. Last time I took it back in January, it was the carbo only.
Okay. Then seems that it's the taxane that's giving you the problem rather than the carboplatin, and I mean, it's all good. All good. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Okay.
And hopefully I'll have even better news next time we talk.
I hope so. Well, we don't. You can email me and tell me, so I don't have to think and worry and say, "Oh, I haven't heard from Dan. I hope he's all right."
No, needn't worry. We're doing fine just now. Even Dr. Agarwal seems to think I have more energy and vitality, having gained some more weight since January.
Good. Okay. Excellent. I'm pleased to hear it. I'm pleased for you too, May. Okay. Peter, what do you have to say for yourself?
Okay, as Rick mentioned, I broke my ball of the femur about a week and a half ago. Carrying a 50-pound bag of feed into a feed room, and I was unloading my truck, and I tripped over the doorway. Anyway, it could have happened any place, any time, to anyone. The pleasant surprise for me was, and I immediately freaked because I've been on AD for 2.5 years on and off out of the last 4 years or 5 years since I've been diagnosed. And I was really suspicious of my bone quality in my hip and legs and so forth. I've taken Prolia a number of times over that 2.5 year cycle. But when they did the X-ray, and I talked to the doctor, he's got strong bones. I mean, there's no reason why we can't pin this and put it together, and there's no reason why you can't heal really quickly. So I'm attributing this to exercise. I mean, from the get-go, I mean, that was the instruction. You know, so one thing that and diet are the two things that we have command over. And I'm religious about exercising and getting to the gym and walking and doing whatever I could, even if when I felt really shitty with Lupron and Casodex or whatever, and just, you know, I just made myself get out there and keep that regimen up. And I think that's the best medicine we can do for our bones, because we don't want to let them get weak, and we don't want to let them deteriorate, because it happen, and we want to be able to heal, get on with a bigger fight. So that's my soapbox tonight. And I did check, and you were right, Rick, that prostate specialist does not take Medi-Cal. They don't take that kind of insurance.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for checking. I mean, it had nothing to do with a bias. It was just I was fairly sure they didn't, and I just didn't want to put Becky through going down there and then, you know, finding out he couldn't use them whilst on Medi-Cal. So,
one other thought for Jackie, since there was some question about the lung issue, is if he UCSF and gets through to them and gets on their roll, you might as well see a pulmonary guy as well, just in case. You know, when he started talking about asbestos and lung issues, if it's possible that his lung thing has nothing to do with prostate cancer.
Right. You see, my thinking is that a doc like Terry Friedlander is gonna, if he has any doubt, is gonna refer him over there.
Good.
And again, that's another advantage of going to a center of excellence like that. And when you got a doc like Terry who's so smart, if he has any doubt, he'll be sending him over there without a question. And Jackie, if you do get to see Terry, you can tell him we sent you. He knows me. He knows who we are.
Okay.
Somebody has joined us on the telephone. Who is that?
Just finished changing hospital, Rick. It's Rich Jackson.
Oh, it's okay. All right, it's Rich again. That's okay. All right, just checking in, making sure.
No problem.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Peter, for the exercise plug. For long-time callers, participants, you know that's something we push very strongly on this call, and we believe that it makes huge differences for many people in different ways. And I know Peter was thrilled when he found out that his bone strength was so solid. Paul Frieda, would you like to just tell us where you find yourself today?
They just gave me a new antibiotic, and we're going to see in the next few hours how that's helped me. And so you know, we're just I was really miserable this morning, and then they gave me something that helped a lot, and now I just got another one, and so I'm just hoping that they'll come up with the right combination and get me over this thing.
Okay. But we need to
Yeah,
tell people that you're in hospital being treated for pneumonia.
that's right. That's right. I went to MD now when I first was coughing for about 5 days. And they gave me a Z-Pack. And after 5 days on the Z-Pack, I was worse than I was. So I realized I had to get more professional care, and I went to the emergency room. And they just swarmed all over me and did a whole bunch of tests and everything. And they gave me a standard drug. I think it's called Levithin or something like that. But it didn't work. And they were very surprised. And so then they tried another one. And that one didn't work. And but now it looks like they're onto something. So
Where are you in hospital?
I'm at in Boynton Beach. There's a hospital called Bethesda West. Very nice hospital. Beautiful, beautiful hospital. And I've been quite impressed with the professionalism of the staff. So
How's the food, or shouldn't I ask?
well, I'm not eating it very much, but I did order just to look at it, and it's awful. I gotta say. I mean, but you have to understand something. My wife is a professional cook, so I'm spoiled. Everything my wife prepares is like what you might expect at a 5-star restaurant, and so my standards are very, very high, whereas other people might find it okay.
Okay. Is there any correlation between, you think?
You're coming in and out. Is there any correlation to what?
Any correlation between your weight and your wife's cooking ability?
Yes, for sure. I was a nice slim, but I think the weight gain had a lot to do with the Lupron and the metabolism, and I just slowly was irresponsible and eat too much ice cream and cake and then just gotten to a point where I can't stand myself. I mean, I'm just like angry. To give you an idea, I weigh 280 pounds. Okay, now for a guy my size should be around 200. So I'm 80 pounds overweight. Now 80 pounds is 5 bowling balls. Try to imagine you're walking around everywhere with 5 bowling balls.
Right.
It's just ridiculous, So I've got to figure out a way to, start, lose this weight.
And we know that Thai cooking is very healthy, so it's probably down to the ice cream and cake, as you say.
Oh, well, that's been out the window for a month or two. Yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah. But I'm never mind.
Go ahead.
Well, just wish me luck. That's all. I want to get rid of this weight. I want to get back to a reasonable level, and so that I can be as healthy as possible when I begin fighting the cancer with the secondary drugs and chemo.
Okay. Yeah, and we wish you a speedy recovery from the pneumonia, and we hope to see you out of that hospital very, very soon.
Thank you very much.
Carl Foreman, did you have anything else you wanted to raise?
Well, as I see there's 5 minutes remaining here, and I had hoped to hear from Len about the conference that occurred, but just quickly, in my situation, following up at your recommendation, Rick, concerning Talzenna and the PARP inhibitor, I did start on olaparib a little less than 2 weeks ago. I did speak to Professor Bill earlier today. He was at his brother's house this evening. They were throwing a party for Bill, so that's why he wasn't on the call tonight. But he pretty much concurred with my current course of treatment, being on the Casodex and the olaparib for now. And I did pose questions, and I haven't gotten responses yet back. I forwarded to them the link that you had sent to me about recent beneficial results with the Talzenna, the 2nd generation of PARP inhibitors. I also sent it on to Dr. Dumchek, and Bill was very curious to know what her response would be about that. I had previously corresponded with her again, at your suggestion, Rick, has her being one of the top researchers, oncologists with BRCA2 positive situations. So when I met with her in person and also followed up with an email, and she simply said, yes, you should definitely go on a PARP inhibitor once you become castrate resistant, which I have recently become. And but when I asked her, okay, so which one, she initially responded back, well, no one really knows. And although now with this information about Talzenna, I'm curious as Bill to see what her reaction or response will be concerning Talzenna.
You know, Bill said to you he thinks that the combination of Casodex and olaparib is appropriate. I mean,
Yes.
in his opinion.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't get that because he wrote me that he thought that yes, you should be on a stronger PARP inhibitor if you can access one.
Well, I mean, the fact that this is the first time, it's only been 2 weeks, we have to give it a little bit of a chance at this point with the olaparib.
Sure.
He did say that within 2 weeks of him going on olaparib, it did start showing benefits. I hope with my PET scan today that indeed has occurred because I'm just at that 2 week mark.
Right, and you know, as far as the Casodex, it's an old drug. It just.
It's been beneficial.
Well, when you say it's been beneficial, tell me more. What makes you think it's been? I'm not saying it hasn't, but tell me why you feel that the Casodex is doing its job.
Well, hopefully, yes. Again, we're only at the 2 week mark, and I haven't had a follow up PSA yet. I will by the end of the week because I got to get it done before the Provenge starts. But the Casodex is not considered for my oncologist a long term scenario. He expects for me to be on it a month or 2 months to be able to control, if not lower, my accelerating PSA.
Well, I'll just go back to what I said to you on the phone, and I'm interested to hear what Len and others say. If the right treatment for you is a PARP inhibitor and an anti-androgen in addition to the Lupron, or whatever it is, are you on Lupron or?
Eligard.
Eligard. So in addition to the LHRH, then why not get the best of what's available in both categories? And Casodex is definitely not the best available. Now we know that the Zytiga didn't work, probably because you're ARV7 positive, and the Xtandi isn't going to work. So what might work is the apalutamide, the Alida, because that works when you are ARV7 positive, and it's a much better drug than the Casodex. And the Talzenna is a better drug than the olaparib, and that's my thinking. I mean, I'm not saying that the combination of Casodex and olaparib isn't an okay combination, but it isn't maximizing for you when if there are better drugs available in both categories.
Right. Well, going on to the olaparib doesn't prevent me from going on to another PARP inhibitor. We know that. So the thinking behind my oncologist is that, well, olaparib, as we discussed, is the one that's been around the longest time and has the most amount of information and research. And so we're looking at that now. We're seeing how long it might work, and if it doesn't, then we go on to the next.
Yeah, but we don't have experience of using these PARP inhibitors sequentially. That's the problem. That's the issue that Bill's facing. We don't know. We don't know that, you know, it could be that you use something like olaparib, which is a first generation PARP inhibitor, and it steals the thunder and makes anything that follows it less effective. Whereas if you use the most effective going in, you might get a much bigger impact, which is what people like Bill seem to think, and the scientists seem to think, that that these second generation PARP inhibitors are better drugs. We don't know. I mean, you're saying, and the guy saying, well, let's start with the olaparib, and when it doesn't work anymore, then what we do know is that the Talzenna is a better drug than the Lynparza.
Well, I mean, look, it's brand new information, and we'll see. Okay.
Just saying, and the same is true with Casodex. Casodex is an old drug. Yeah, Casodex sometimes may work early on in the disease or when you come off, but Casodex after abiraterone, I would say if the Casodex works after the abiraterone, why not try enzalutamide? And if the answer to that is, well, it's because he's probably ARB7 positive, and so the Casodex is going to work if he is ARB7 positive, I'd say, well, then why not Airleader, apalutamide? That's a much better drug than it's a better drug than enzalutamide. It's a better drug, certainly a way better drug than Casodex. Isn't that what we should be using right now? But anyone else have any comments on this? Thoughts?
Rick, I could agree with you on the preferred choice of enzalutamide or apalutamide instead of Casodex. Certainly, enzalutamide has been in a clinical trial versus Casodex and had been proven to be superior. Now, as with regard to the PARP inhibitors, I don't think there's enough data to say that talazoparib or Talzenna is superior in the sense that it has better efficacy than olaparib, because they've never done a head-to-head trial. We do know that Talzenna is more potent, but all that simply means is that you give less of the drug.
Right.
So that's not necessarily an advantage. It could be, but not necessarily. So I understand the logic of why they're going with olaparib, which has a much longer proven track record.
Right. But what I would say is that even though it's only a single trial with 200 men, the fact that they last week aborted the phase 2 and moved that drug into a phase 3 trial in the talazoparib plus enzalutamide trial, Talapro, is a pretty good sign. And when I hear Bill saying the second line PARP inhibitors like rucaparib, niraparib, and talazoparib are better drugs and more effective drugs. I don't know what makes them more effective, but I'm listening to somebody who I respect, a cancer researcher who's been working with these PARP inhibitors for years, who tells me that talazoparib is a better drug than olaparib. I got to believe him. And then I see the results coming out. Why are they using the olaparib? Because it's been around longer and it's easier to get it. It's easier to get it approved. It's less paperwork. But I know that if it were me personally, God forbid, thank God it isn't. But if it were me personally, I'd be chasing down a second generation PARP inhibitor.
Yeah, I understand that, but for whatever reasons, Carl is telling us that Bill told him olaparib is the right choice for him right now.
Yeah, and I
Well,
think in the context that Bill was speaking from, Bill was on olaparib, as you know, and
right.
he got a certain amount of effectiveness, at least a year, if not longer. So
He did, absolutely, but I don't think that's what Bill was saying. I'm thinking what Bill was saying because I've got it in black from Bill right here because I asked him, and he said yes, he's better off on a second line drug. And I think what Bill was saying is the olaparib is fine, but if you could be on a second generation drug, you'd be doing better.
I do have the request into, as I said, Dr.
Okay.
Dumchek and my oncologist, and we'll see how they respond.
Okay. But all they've got to do is ask for it, and if you can't get it, we can help you. But I can only do so much, and if you're indifferent to it, then it's fine. Just stick with what you got. It's less work, but if you need it, I think we can get it. And if it were me, that's what I'd be going for. So again, this isn't medical advice. This is based on the trials that are out there and comparing olaparib to talazoparib, and accepting the medical advice you're getting, which is you need a combination of a PARP inhibitor and a second-line anti-androgen. I just say go for the best that you can in all categories. All right, we're 8 minutes over. Len, can we hold your PCI discussion until recap until next Tuesday?
Yeah, it'd actually be better next Tuesday because we'll probably have Bill on the call and he attended sessions that I didn't.
Okay.
Get a better picture.
All right. Well, let's call that a wrap for today. And is there anything that we've missed? Anybody have any last minute suggestions, comments, thoughts before we wrap?
Yeah, the lesson after Carl was talking about the cost of scans, and then Les was talking about the cost of the C11 scans. I think it's best that we don't put our wallet in our pocket when they scan us, because it'll pick up what we have.
Very good, Peter. I see that treatment helped your sense of humor as well. Hey Peter, could you do a little dance for us, just to give us a zip for the? Look at this! Look at this! Oh, fantastic! All right. Bravo! Great job, Peter. Do me one favor though. Don't be carrying any bags of feed. No indoor. Oh, okay.
Take care.
And no carrying bags of feed, even with a walking stick.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Okay. All right, guys. We'll talk to you next week, next Tuesday, the 12th. Right, Tuesday the 12th. And yeah, we have a caregivers call tomorrow, which I mentioned. All your caregivers are very welcome to join that call. I think that's the only other relevant call from ANCAN this week. Okay, good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, guys. See you, everybody.